zoning map, like you would think about your house plan, right? Your house is set up with zones. The kitchen is a zone, the bathroom is a zone, the living room is a zone, right? So you have certain things that should only exist in certain rooms. You don't anticipate having a toilet in your bedroom, right? That would be completely out of character for the zone of your bedroom. But could you have a couch in your bedroom, let's say? You could. It's not in character with what you want. You would expect the couch to be in the living room. But could I have a couch in the bedroom? You could. Could I have a couch in the kitchen? Maybe. If you have a little nook in your kitchen, you want to put like a seating, like sofa maybe, it could be something that you might see there. It's not typical because that's not what it's zoned for. Same thing is going to be for these properties. It's not what you would typically want to see in that area, but it's also something that possibly could be permissible if you have certain conditions. So in a single family residential zone, you might have a school. Is it allowed as a single family? No. But does it go appropriately with what is surrounding it? Yes. In a single family residential zone, would you like to see a NASA launch pad? Absolutely not, right? That would be completely out of character. It's kind of like having your toilet in your kitchen. It would not look good. Okay? So you want to be able to look at your zoning map and also come up with what you think would be an appropriate use for what you're doing. They just have other maps, different descriptions, and you can look over here. Another document that they have that if you just type into Google Harrison Master Plan, this one comes up as well. So the master plan was 175 pages. They have to re-examine it every several years to come up with new ideas or to revise anything that they might want to revise. So the reevaluation here is only 29 pages, and this was done in 2020. So here it's more of a condensed version, and they just highlighted certain things. And this is one of the things they looked at is the objectives and goals. Many of the objectives have stayed exactly the same. Some of them have been reworded, some of them have been eliminated, some of them have been added. So you can look here and see the one that we described before continues to be here. Continue to be high quality of fire education, police protection, for the town residents. Alright? So you can kind of look at the two documents and see what best fits your narrative or what you want to propose for the project. Okay? So these are the documents that you can see again. Some updated versions of the master plan that gives you different things on the population. They give you school enrollment. So again, these two documents are going to be the primary basis to get your project started to come up with an idea of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Okay? Any questions with that? Nope. We good? Okay. So then the next document is called the land use ordinance. The master plan is a planning document. It's a vision. It's just an overarching idea of what you want. The land use ordinance is now your engineering document of how you're going to be able to accomplish it with the restrictions put into place. Okay? So what you're going to do is use both of these documents. For the land use ordinance, you see that it's pretty long, 240 pages. You're not using all those pages, but there's going to be pages that I do point out to you that I'd like you to take a note of, because these are the ones that you're primarily going to come back and reference. Okay? So the first thing that you're going to start off with
the professor that mentioned there is something about like fixed fee or a certain